And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I am your host, Kim Davis. Today is Tuesday, August the 24th. Cannot believe that we're almost at the end of the month, right? September will be here, well, next week. So what that means in football and NFL speak is that this is the final week of training camp. The Texans will have their final preseason game on Saturday night at NRG Stadium. It's their only home preseason game, and so they will wrap up preseason on Saturday night and have to get their roster down to size next week and figure out who's going to be on this football team as they get ready to open the season on September the 12th, I believe, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it's been an interesting summer. It's been a very interesting off season if you follow the Houston Texans. And they're 2-0 in preseason. And of course we know that these games don't matter once the regular season starts, right? That the schedule, that record doesn't matter. But Coach Culley says, when they keep score, it means something, right? So you want to win when they keep score. So they're 2-0 in preseason, and for a team that has so many, there's so much uncertainty about, there's been so much chatter, a lot of doubt, some disruption with fans, all of that. 2-0 in preseason is far better than the alternative, okay? And so with that said, what we have seen thus far from this Houston Texans team is that defensively, they are going to be better defensively, I believe, than they are offensively. And that may be like, well, Kim, does it take a rocket scientist to recognize that? But I do. I think this team, has some bright spots on defense. I think that what Lovie Smith is bringing to the defense, and in terms of just the change and the aggressiveness, and I mean, it sounds like the players are really buying in, that they are enjoying being a part of this defense and flying around on the field, and that's always good. When you can have fun at work, that's got to make what you do flow a little bit better. And so defensively, they're going to be exciting to watch. I think they'll probably be on the field a lot, so they're going to have to be in really good shape, because I think the offense is going to struggle, and that's just the fact of it. I mean, Tyrod Taylor will obviously be the starting quarterback when the regular season starts, although they haven't definitely said that, but he will be the starter, and we'll see how he does. I mean, Tyrod Taylor is he's been in the league for a minute. He's a veteran. He's had a few little bumps and bruises, as I call it, with some injuries and just some strange things happening. And so it's a fresh start for him. And but this offense will not be stellar. I mean, the upside is not great. I feel like there's like something in my mouth. Anyway, so, this past preseason game, while we can celebrate what happened with the defense and the fact that they had 4 takeaways and they had sacks and they were really active all night, the offense was 0-10 on third down conversions. They won the game, but they didn't look great. They still have some challenges in terms of what happens in the red zone, and so they're working through it, right? And as they go through camp. So I'm going to let you hear today from head coach David Culley, who talked about some of these things in terms of offensively, the good and the bad, what they did defensively. I also asked him what he wants to see this week. He talked about that, so we have some idea of what we can expect on Saturday night when they play the world champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers at NRG Stadium. We also talk with we'll hear from Tyrod Taylor, who is, like I said, by all accounts, he's going to be the starting quarterback. So we'll hear from him. And Titus Howard, who has moved to left guard. And so he's playing on the left side with Laramie Tunzel. And we'll let you hear from Titus Howard. I think I like the idea of him being on the left side, even though this team may not be at the top, competing for anything real high in terms of where they end up. I still think it'll be interesting to watch. So we're going to first talk about the Texans, and then we're going to talk about the Houston Astros, who are 3.5 games. I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right number. There's still quite a bit of baseball left. They've had a couple of losses that have. Listen, if you think the fans and the media are not happy about the losses, you got to know that neither is Dusty Baker, the manager, who was often and easily scrutinized. So they lost to the Royals yesterday, 7-1. But it's the game on Sunday that they lost 6-3 to the Mariners. And 6-3. It was extra innings game. They had a chance to win it in regulation. They went into extra innings and just couldn't score. They just couldn't. They just weren't able to get it done, and so couldn't get a hit when you needed it. Right, that bases loaded, and we'll see what happens. With this team, but I think it's way too early to panic. Now they are 4-6 in their last 10, and you're going to have those kind of stretches. The White Sox, for instance, are leading. The American League Central, they have a 9-game lead over Cleveland. And they're 4-6 in their last 10 games. So I just offer that as to say, you know what? All is not lost. You obviously want to always win more than you lose. But they're 3.5 games ahead of the A's, 5.5 games ahead of Seattle. And so they're still in good position. They just can't have these big lulls, and they can't afford to let some slip out of their hands the way they have in recent games. So we're going to talk about the Houston Astros, but first, I want you to hear from Texans coach David Culley.
Let me go to the negative. I know you said positive, but there was a negative that I want to make sure. We were 0 for 10 on third down, which was not acceptable. And then a couple of those were third and shorts. The most positive thing is, which has something to do with us still having a chance to win the ball game with 4 turnovers. We did not turn the ball over. And that was the most positive thing about coming out of the game offensively.
The defense gave up a 50% allowed on third down, including 50% when the starters were in. Were you worried about that?
I'm not worried about it, but that's not good. And the other thing, too, is they were 2 for 2 in the red zone when they got down there. And basically, we've had some issues in the first 2 in the red zone and not getting touchdowns. And obviously, the opponent we just played were 2 for 2 getting down there. But it's not a concern because basically what happens when you play these preseason games, we're not game planning them, so to speak. So we're just going out there and we're playing them. We practice against each other. We practice against what we do offensively and defensively. And you go out there and then you see some things that you hadn't seen before that you normally would see during a regular season. And I think that has a lot to do with that also. Well, I think that was more so of just how we were willing to approach the game to do some things we do differently on offense that we hadn't done before. I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that it was who we were playing. It just had something to do with the things that we were calling and what we were trying to see. And, we were trying to get the ball in certain people's hands. We wanted to see certain guys in certain situations. And so basically, Tim called the game basically to kind of evaluate some of our personnel.
With how much of an asset Tyrod can be with his legs, is there kind of an element of the running game that you guys just aren't really deploying in the preseason?
Well, no, that's basically that happens. We're not asking him to run. But we know that when he's back there with the ball in his hands in a passing situation, that we know that he's mobile enough to be able to get out of trouble, to keep plays alive. And the one thing that defensive out here, Lovey talk about this all the time, is that the worst thing you want to happen to you when you got everybody covered downfield is for a mobile quarterback to be able to get out of there and get a first down for you because you've got everybody else covered.
So you don't really want to use him in the run game undesigned?
Well, we do have plays in our offense that are designed to do that, but not necessarily, and that's a game plan deal. That's a game plan. Depends on who we're playing. Well, I want to basically see how we can sustain things during basically for a whole half with basically the same guys in there when we're playing. We haven't done that yet. We've basically had a kind of pitch count for certain guys, and hopefully in this game right here we can get a little bit more consistency and going into the second half with the same guys and seeing how the consistency develops with those guys.
Real quick, I just wanted to ask you about, is there any update on Anthony Miller as far as his status in this?
No update.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
All right, that was head coach David Culley yesterday, actually before practice. They've moved their practices to the afternoon, really getting more into the schedule they'll have during the regular season. So they were inside the stadium yesterday, had a light practice, and coach talked before practice. So that was him after, having a chance to look at some of the tape, what he came away with and what his thoughts were. So, we'll see. The regular season is just a few weeks away. Last night there was a game. The Saints were on Monday Night Football, and Jameis Winston, for all of you doubters, had a performance that says, "Hey, you know what? I should be the starter this season for this New Orleans Saints team." And it's tough to argue with that. Of course, he's the number 1 overall draft pick. And, of course, you know what? The big knock on Jameis Winston has been his issue with turning the ball over. The last time he was a starter, he had 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns. That's just awful, right? You can't have 30 turnovers. So that was, a couple of seasons ago. Then the next season, of course, this is when he was at Tampa Bay. They brought in Tom Brady, and then, of course, he's now with the Saints. Has been behind Drew Brees, and he's getting another shot. What has he learned, and will he be able to take care of the ball? And he did on Monday night against Jacksonville what many think that any competent starting quarterback should do, but he completed his numbers. He completed 9 of 10 passes for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Saints won that game 23-21. They scored on 2 of the 3 drives that he was in for. So he clearly made a case for himself. And the big thing is that he's not turning the ball over, right? So if Jameis Winston can be productive like he was last night, and I realize it's preseason, but hey guys, this is what coaches have to go on, right? This is really all we can talk about right now until, September 12th, the weekend of September 12th when the season opens. It is all they have to go on. So yeah, he looked pretty good, but the key for him is going to be can he protect the ball? If he can be consistent and accurate, then he may be the kind of player that, many of us thought he would be when he came out of college as the Heisman Trophy winner and NCAA champion and top pick in the draft. So, we'll see what happens. He sounded kind of like a veteran in the post game, and so perhaps he's had some time and he's matured on and off the field. We'll see. That's all we can do is say that we're going to see what happens with Jameis Winston. And the Jaguars. Urban Meyer and the Jaguars have not been so good yet, right? But is it early? Are we overreacting? The expectations are so high for Urban Meyer because he's Urban Meyer and because of what he's been able to do in the past. College coaches in general haven't been well received in the NFL. So we'll see what he does. But this Jacksonville team is going to take a minute for them to pull it together. You've got a new coach. You've got a lot of new personnel. And so, I'm not that concerned. They're in the AFC South, so I'll see them twice. They'll play the Texans twice because they're in the same division. And we'll see what happens as the season goes on. They've got a new quarterback. We'll see how he looks. When and if you expect to see, what you expect to see from him this season. Trevor Lawrence, who is, people have been waiting for him to leave to get to the league, and now he's in the league, and so what do you have, right? So we will continue to just keep an eye on it, and because they're division, they're in the same division with the Texans, we'll see and follow them pretty closely. In fact, the Texans open the season against the Jaguars, so that should be interesting to see how those two teams match up to start the season. All right, so we also talked with Tyrod Taylor and Titus Howard yesterday, and we talk a lot about the Texans defense. I've always been a person that favored defenses, right? I've covered some great offensive teams. I was thinking about this yesterday. So even from a collegiate level, like I covered Andre Ware and when he was at the University of Houston, and there was a run and shoot, and he won the Heisman that year and went on to be, I believe, he was the 7th pick in the draft when he came out. So I covered Warren Moon and that very prolific offense with the Houston Texans, and it was fun to watch. I mean, it's Houston Texans. They were the Houston Oilers back then. So you had guys like Alonzo Highsmith and Mike Rozier, and you had receivers like Ernest Givens, who was tough as nails, and Haywood Jeffries, and there was a lot on the offense. The offensive line wasn't great when Warren first got here, but they got better. They made a huge investment in it over time. So I've seen some great offenses play, some really good offenses play. I also was here when the Oilers drafted Steve McNair and got a chance to see what he did with the offense. So it's not that I've never covered offenses that were good. And obviously I've covered the Texans and Deshaun Watson when he was able to lead this offense and have the offense looking, fairly well. And even when the Texans won the division a couple of times. So, I mean, there have been some good offenses. I just have always been a person that maybe leaned toward defenses. Maybe it's because that's when my father played. My father was a linebacker, right? He was he played on TSU's first football team. And so defense wins championships, right? Isn't that what they say? But of course, you got to score points. Anyway, I talk a lot about defense, so that's why today I thought we're going to let you hear from some of the offensive players for a change. And so we're going to let you hear from Tyrod Taylor. I'll also let you hear from Titus Howard. Let's listen to Tyrod Taylor, because he is going to be the person starting at quarterback when the season opens. Here's Tyrod Taylor after practice yesterday.
I would say that it's guys from different, what this team is built around guys that have come from different circumstances, whether it's been a situation that didn't go right for them and they're here playing with a chip on their shoulder, or guys in their contract years. It's a bunch of motivated guys, and I think Coach Culley made it very clear early on that we're here to work. Keep the business our business, and we're here to work. When we're on that football field, it's about football, and that's what we're going to keep it about. Better in all phases. Communication is where it starts. Of course, executing. We wasn't in situations where it was 3rd and 9 manageable. When I say that 10 plus, we were in 3rd and manageable. It's just about executing. And we watched the film and seeing where we could be better at that, and we just got to take the right steps of cleaning that up and getting on the right track this week as we go into the season.
Tara, what's it like playing with Brandon?
Coach Culley has mentioned to us and reiterated to us that we're definitely going to be a physical group. Of course, we have the speed and the playmakers outside on the edge, but our identity comes up front and in the backfield. And I think that opens up our playbook as we get the front 5 playing physical and the running backs getting downhill. I think it just opens up the rest of our playbook.
What do you think?
I think it's a combination of both. Of course, in the NFL, a lot of big plays from the quarterback position as far as running happen on broken plays. Of course, you can scheme up things, but some stuff happen just organically, and I think it's ways to do both. And still have success. But more importantly, we have the weapons outside to be able to get those guys the ball and take the hits off the quarterback.
Sorry, I don't know if you saw the news about Cam with the COVID testing and stuff there and being out for a while, but
I haven't seen any news. I'm sorry.
Just in general, I feel like quarterbacks' decisions on vaccines have been in the news. Did you decide to get vaccinated?
I think that's a personal matter to speak about it. I can't say whether it's the right or wrong thing. I think it's just a personal choice. I think guys on this team have taken the right precautions to do the right thing and to protect one another. I mean, regardless vaccine or not, I think you still have to treat it as if it's just as real as it was last year. I mean, you see, I have my mask on me, and I try to keep it on at all times, and I think that that has to be the mindset moving forward for everyone, whether they're vaccinated or not, just because it's something coming out each and every day. So many new reports around it that in order for us to have everyone healthy on the season, we have to take the right precautions. I'm comfortable with it, and I think it's something that you continue to keep building chemistry with day in and day out, just talking through different concepts, even in practice, maybe sacrificing one of those plays to use as a scramble drill to move around, just to be able to coach it and tell guys where you expect them to be on certain concepts. But yeah, definitely comfortable in that area, and like I said, it's just something we got to continue to keep improving. That's nothing that you just work on and don't touch into the game. You have to continue to keep having those conversations week in, week out. They may present themselves, but they may not. But when they do, it's an opportunity for a big play.
So that's Tyrod Taylor after practice yesterday. Got the question about vaccines and COVID. We heard David Culley say earlier that he felt pretty good about the vaccination rate, that all but I think the number he said 4 or 5 players are on the team have gotten the vaccine, and they don't talk about which ones have not. And as you heard Tyrod Taylor there say, he thinks it's a personal decision. So you wonder. Here's the thing: you just want everybody to be healthy, right? Things are getting crazy and out of hand, out of control, and just community-wide. I'm not just talking about football, right? I'm talking about really everybody. And, so hopefully they are all taking the precautions. We do see some players out there wearing masks, when they're not on the field. And so that's, I don't know if those players are the ones who are not vaccinated. They're just taking the extra precaution. You heard Tyrod say that. He took it off when he got ready to speak. Of course, those of us, as a point of clarification, in the media who are actually able to do interviews in person with the players have all been vaccinated, and we get tested every 2 weeks. Fine by me, because I'm glad to know, I'm glad to continually know that what my status is while I'm taking all of the right precautions, right, in terms of wearing masks when I'm indoors. I'm just speaking for me. I'm not telling you guys what you should do. I would encourage you to get the vaccine and practice social distancing, but those are the precautions that I'm taking. So the fact that the Texans reinforced that, I'm good with that, right? And I think it's not just the Texans. Those are some NFL protocols and guidelines. So we all, those of us in the media who are in this group that have access to in-person interviews, we wear masks when we are talking to the players or the coaches, and when we're indoors. So when we're out on the field at practice, we don't have to wear a mask, but when we're around the players, we do. So there's a lot of protocols in place to try to keep everyone safe. And so that's just that little update. In fact, my last COVID test was yesterday, so I haven't heard anything different, so all is good. And it's comforting, because even though I have been vaccinated, I've had the vaccine, we know that you can still contract COVID. The thought, though, is that it just would not hit me as hard, or I should be able to, not get really, really sick and survive it. But I say all that to say in the middle of the show, just to be safe, everybody, and to protect the kids. I really am concerned about children who don't really have a choice because they can't get vaccinated, and they're really being hit hard. The fact that the ER rooms are filling up around Houston, and there's some suburbs where they don't have any space, and that's really scary, because what if you have something else happen? Like those of you who are doing this milk crate challenge. You fall and break your leg. Where are you going to go, right? What are you going to do? Unfortunately, you have a car accident or you have some other issue that happens. So I just encourage you all to be safe in general. It's just crazy times that we live in. So I just wanted to share that as we move on through the program. Okay, so I told you Titus Howard. Titus Howard was the number one draft pick for this, was a first round draft pick for this team the last time they had a pick. So what was that, 2 years ago? A product of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. It was interesting on draft night. There were people in that room that had no idea what SWAC was. People who cover football. There was actually a beat writer in the room who didn't know anything about the SWAC. And I was like, wow, how can you cover football, the NFL, and not have any sense of what the SWAC conference is, the history of the SWAC and the role, the impact it's had on the National Football League. I tell you, it was really interesting that night, seeing the people in that room that cover the Texans kind of scrambled and looked like they drafted him with the first round pick. Well, he's an offensive lineman. He is been moved over to play left guard. He played some right tackle when he came in, but I'm going to let you hear from Titus Howard just about kind of how he feels in this being somewhat of a veteran, I guess, now on this Texans team and now being on the same side of the line as Larry Tunzel, who, of course, will line up and start at left tackle.
Just tell us, how did you do, your first, actually how did it feel left guard and kind of getting to the group thing?
Oh, yeah, it felt pretty good. I haven't played guard since my rookie year, my first game, but it felt pretty good to be out there this weekend and playing good, being out there with my boys. I feel like up front, we did a pretty good job. There's always stuff we can work on, but I feel like we made a progress from where we were last year, and I think it's going to be pretty good.
It seemed like maybe y'all didn't run the ball as well as y'all maybe perhaps wanted to. Why do you think that might have been?
Every week, there's stuff that, we've been going against each other at training camp, game planning, this and that. But I feel like we was making, did some good blocks. We were making some guys move out the hole, but we just didn't get what we were supposed to be getting. But I think that's something that we can take to this week's practice, work on, and I think it should be better this weekend.
Hey, Titus, you and Larry teaming up. How excited are you about that potential for you guys playing next to each other and got to know him all these years?
Oh yeah, that's my boy right there. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a pretty good year, for us. I'm on the left side. I'm playing left guard. He's at left tackle. It's gonna be real. It's gonna be real. But I think the whole front, the whole offensive line. We got Justin, we got Max, you got Charlie, you got Lane, you got Cannon. I think this group is gonna do a good thing this year for this team, and I think we win some games because of what we do up front.
What sort of asset is Justin as a guy who's played, so many different positions on the line just in the league in terms of kind of advice he can dispense to people?
Yeah, he's been very helpful for me. I know when Justin, he came into the league as a tackle. Played tackle with Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Then he ended up moving to the center. So, when I first got moved to left guard, he was just talking like, hey, man, you need some advice. Just tell me, I can help you out. I've been through this. So, I listened to some things from him, and I learned a lot from him. And he's a great guy, So I'm happy for him to be on this team and be our starting center.
That's Titus Howard talking about some of the guys he lines up with on the offensive line. The last guy he talked about is the center. And so that's kind of your Texans wrap, if you will, from what's been happening from over the weekend through getting ready to this final week of the season. For some, it will be it'll be it for them. They'll be packing up and leaving after this preseason game. And as the team gets down to its final roster and also, deciding who's going to be in the practice squad. So it'll be interesting. I know that earlier at one point in this offseason, we talked about some of the players from last year. And if you look at who's still on this roster and who are the players that maybe are potentially not going to be there. And I know that early in camp, as I watched Whitney Merciless line up at defensive end, I wondered if he was a guy on the bubble. But I think Whit is going to be fine, and even if he didn't play here, he'd play someplace. But I think I also think that his contract plays into that, because I don't see them making a move with a player that has a contract that they can't really do anything with. So I expect that he will be here. So I've heard some people, when you just listening, like question, will Jonathan Owens make this team? Jonathan Owens is a defensive back out of a Missouri Western State. He's probably also more famously known as being the boyfriend of Simone Biles, But will he make this team? And when you look at how they're using him, and so we don't know. This weekend could be a big opportunity or a big game for him. On the offensive side of the ball, there's a guy that I wonder whether or not he will make this team, and that is the running back David Johnson, who of course came over in the trade for, he's a 7-year veteran out of Iowa, northern Iowa. But he came here from the Cardinals. He came over in that trade, the DeAndre Hopkins trade. I don't know that you could ever live up to that awful, awful trade. Like, it wasn't his fault, right? But he is, I don't know. I mean, they've got quite a few, running backs in camp. There are some that... if they're going to go younger, because right now I think the average age is 29, which is not young, it's a little old for an NFL running back. But, it'll be interesting to see if David Johnson is able to make this team. It'll be interesting just to see. Come on, just give me what I'm looking for. Sorry, I'm looking at some information and they're trying to make me do a bunch of other stuff that I don't want to do. They don't like to talk about, obviously depth charts and all that kind of stuff with this team. It's about, and I get it to a degree, you have so many new faces. It's about competition. And so they want to just make sure that everybody is all in terms of the work and putting it in on the field and not worrying about, it's easy to say, not worry about where you may be on the depth chart. Of course, you're worrying about that has everything to do with your future. But here's what's about to happen, right? So the last preseason game is Saturday night at 7:00 against the Buccaneers at home in NRG Stadium. They will open the regular season Sunday, September 12th against the Jaguars. And they have the Jaguars, the Browns, and then they have the Carolina Panthers, and then the Buffalo Bills. I am trying to, why don't they have it in a different situation? So they play at home against the Jaguars to open the season. And then they're also, do they open as... let me go to my schedule, my own schedule, because that particular schedule does not do a good job of telling me the home and away games. But I know that they open at home against the Jaguars, and then they face Cleveland. Here, let's go to the calendar. So here we go. They're home against the Jaguars. They're in Cleveland to play the Browns. Then they are is that right? Right, they play the Jaguars, they play the Browns. Then they play they can't be off the bat, have a bye that early. They play at the Bills on the 3rd. They have a Thursday night game. That's what I'm missing. Okay, they play the Panthers on the 23rd. So they open the season at home against the Jaguars, on the road against the Browns, and then they play the Panthers in a Thursday night game, which is a home game, and then they are on the road again There we go. I was like, where's the game? So they play the Browns. They're at home against the Panthers. Then, of course, when you typically have a home game that next week, a Thursday night game that next week you're off, that's their bye week. So they've got a bye week early as opposed to later. So that's not always great. Then they're back. They play the Bills on the road in Buffalo October 3rd. Pardon me. They're home against the Patriots on the 10th. They go to the Colts on the 17th, and then to the Arizona Cardinals on the 24th. And then they wrap up the month against the Rams at home on Halloween. So that gets you through the first 2 months of the season. So how do they start? They start against the Jaguars, the Browns, the Panthers, and the Bills. So we'll see how they could start the season. I mean, the Jaguars, that's a game they could win. The Browns, I don't expect that they would win that game. The Panthers, not really sure. Don't expect they would beat the Panthers or the Bills or the Patriots or the Colts or the Cardinals. I mean, it could be a rough start until they'll be ready for that bye week on the week of on Sunday the 14th. They may need it early. That's their official bye week, but because they have a Thursday game, they have some extra time earlier in the season, so they kind of get a break in more than one place, in more than one kind of situation, if you will. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this Texans team, how they line up, what we see from them. I know that some of you have been inboxing me. There is no news. And the reason the reason I don't talk about Deshaun Watson on a regular basis, because there's nothing to say, right? There is no news. If there ever is any, I will certainly share it with you. But there is no news, and it could be that way for quite some time. I mean, this could be a season that he really spends, away from the game, off the field. And that's just unfortunate for everybody, right? But there's so much uncertainty around that situation, and there's just no real information. So we'll see. We will see what happens, but there's no news on that front, and we don't know what the answer is going to be. I just certainly have no idea. Of course, we had our legal expert attorney Charles Drayton on a couple of weeks ago, joining us, just talking about the process. And so that process is going to be what it is and have to play out. Now, speaking of something that's legal and just super crazy, I don't know if you saw the story that came out yesterday. It was bizarre. So you remember Tyler Skaggs, who was a player with the Los Angeles Angels, and he died of an overdose in 2019. So now the federal prosecutors are saying that one of the ex-staffers for the Angels, Eric Kay, ran a drug distribution operation that supplied illegal narcotics to several MLB players, including the drug fentanyl that allegedly led to Skaggs' death in 2019. So there are approximately 5 players that are prepared to testify that they obtained the oxycodone from K. So basically, he was running a drug ring out of the front office, and that also he coordinated the supply of narcotics from 9 different suppliers. The reports so far say that he sometimes used Skaggs as a middleman for distribution. So this former staffer for the Angels is also facing drug-related charges in the death of Skaggs, and now there's all of this investigation into drugs, like a drug ring. How crazy is that? So if you remember, Skaggs, it was so sad, was found dead in a Texas hotel room in July of 2019. He was 27 years old. They were in Texas to play the Rangers for a road game, and that was just tragic. I don't need to go into details of how they found him, but his family has filed a wrongful death civil suit against the Angels that names Kay and a fellow former staffer, Tim Mead. Both men worked in the team's communications department. So that's what they do in the communications? That's just, I mean, Meads was Kay's manager, and, he previously denied to ESPN that he had any knowledge about this alleged drug ring distribution. But the prosecutors, the reports that have come out so far, allege that they started distributing drugs to to Angels players in 2017. So it had been going on for 2 years. And the Angels, of course, have released a statement saying that the civil suit is entirely without merit, and that the allegations are baseless. And they went on to also call them irresponsible. So the team is fighting it. They're going to fight this lawsuit in court, and wow, it's a lot. It leaves me kind of speechless that this kind of activity is going on in a baseball team. But as the Astros go around and play, you have people that want to boo them about a cheating scandal from 2019. From 2017. This is far worse. Okay, this is far worse, and so I just that's craziness, and you'd hate to think that it would be that it would be that it would not get really scrutinized and make sure that kind of thing can happen. I mean, that's criminal. Like, clearly that's criminal. Now, there was another story. I just want to share this with you before we go. That happened at a Double-A affiliate, right? Not at a major league game, but a Double-A affiliate. So there was. Let me see if I can pull it up. If I can pull it up for you and show you. If I can find the story. It's kind of funny, unless, of course, it happens to you. And then, of course, it's not very funny. But there was a, let's see here. Okay. So there was a story that Daniela Marulanda shared on Twitter, and I wanted to go back and find it because I can't really do it justice. It's something that you really have to see. Kind of sad, kind of funny. What day, where are we? Come on, where is the story? Because she's got a photo. And I wouldn't wish this on anybody. It's got to be pretty. Okay, here it is. Okay, so let me see if I can pull this up for you. Let me share my screen, okay? And show you. Okay. Imagine getting broken up like this. Tim, this guy named Tim broke up with his girlfriend on a Jumbotron, and that was just so disrespectful. Who does that? He put it on the Jumbotron at Canal Park, and it says, "Alyssa, this relationship is over." In LED, big in the, wow. I don't know the story. I mean, I don't know what Alyssa did to warrant this. But when I saw that, I was like, wow, well, that's a lot. And then, so the team, like, y'all would really put that on the Jumbotron, you know? Now, there are, that stadium, it's not a major league stadium, but it holds 3,100 fans, 3,160 fans were at the game apparently. And either way, it sounds like it's probably a good idea that those two are not together. I just thought, what an awful way to find out that the person you're with is dumping you, right? Anyway, so to be at a game and to see it, you and everybody else to see it on the Jumbotron is just, I don't know, a little classless. But then again, I don't know what Alyssa did to warrant that kind of end or acknowledgement to the end of their relationship. So, listen, the Houston Astros are back in action tonight. They're playing the Kansas City Royals at Minute Maid Park. They have a day game tomorrow. They're off Thursday before taking the field again on Friday. So, you know, all we can do, those of you who cover the Houston Astros or who like the Houston Astros, who are fans of the Astros, the Astros travel starting on Friday. They go to the Rangers. They go to Texas, up to Arlington to take on the Rangers. Is to hope that the Astros get back to their winning ways, if you will, and get back on track, because again, there's still a lot of season left. I've heard some of my colleagues talking about how, may as well just give up now. This isn't a championship team. And I don't know if they are or not, but I know it's way too early to talk about giving up on them. And here's the other thing. Alex Bregman played for the Skeeters last night in his rehab assignment. And so he had a double. I'm looking at just what he did last night. And I'm sure he's ready to get back at it, right? He's ready to get back at it. And, but they want to make sure that he's really healthy. He's missed enough time. At this point, he's missed so much time, it doesn't make any sense to rush him back. But boy, could they use him in the lineup because they've had some, they've had some holes really in offensively when they really needed the boost. And there's some who question some calls that Dusty's made, and we'll talk about that more. But listen, we are out of time. Thank you so much for being a part of Chalk Talk today. I am going to have an interview with Bo Porter. He's going to join us live. He would have joined us now live before by now, except I kind of dropped the ball. So we're going to have Bo Porter join us. And also I'm going to bring you Dwight Thompson, who is a person who's worked on the business side of sports with an agency. He worked with the Poston brothers and their agency for many years and just has a wealth of knowledge about not just sports, but the business of it. And I think those are great conversations to have. So he's going to join us. We're going to get him on live. In fact, he and I talked about doing maybe an additional show to this one that really focuses on more of the business of sports and all those things that happen that many times that we don't know about, that we don't understand. So as always, remember, be safe. Make sure that you're wearing your mask when you go places, especially when you're going indoors. Keep your hands washed. Carry your hand sanitizer. Don't be all up on people, especially if you see me. Do not give me my space. Give people space. You take space. And I'm going to say this. I encourage you to get the vaccine. I think it's better than the alternative. It is just a mess out there right now. So be safe. Take care. Do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. I'll see you next week on, I keep wanting to say Beyond the Headlines. I don't know what that's about. I'll see you next week on Chalk Talk. And until then, follow me on my social media platforms, Kim Y. Davis on Twitter, Kim.Y.Davis on Instagram. And remember, this show is brought to you by Kimmy Treats. Kimmy Treats is our title sponsor. You can go to KimmyTreats.com and place your order for all things wonderful in terms of the popcorn and the amazing body butter. Also, you can go check out Sunshines if you're in Houston and get your stuff in person. You don't even have to come to the website. But anyway, let me hear from you guys. Thank you for being a part of the show. Make it a great, great week. Stay hydrated, stay out of trouble, all that good stuff. I'll see you next time.